This is the ROS Developers Podcast, episode 51.
The ROS Developers Podcast, the ROS Developers. The ROS Developers Podcast, the ROS Developers.
Hello, ROS Developers, and welcome to the ROS Developers Podcast, the podcast that gives you insights from the experts about how to program your robots with ROS. This is Ricardo Tellez from The Construct, and today I would like to dedicate this podcast to all the developers around the world. I mean, developers in general, because you, developers, you are building the world. You are building all those programs that make the world run, that we are able to keep running thanks to all those programs that you have been created, either in the digital world, but also in the physical world. So this podcast is dedicated to you. And the subject of this podcast, today we are not going to have an interview with somebody else, but I would like to discuss a little bit why do you need to learn the robot operating system, also known by ROS, like the ROS in the title of our podcast. Yes, so I would like to describe why. Why do you need to learn ROS? And in case that you would want to become a robotics developer, then you need to learn ROS. Yeah, I know what you think. So maybe, hey, wait a minute, 2-minute questions here. So first of all, why would I like to become a robotics developer? And second, in case that I want it, why should I learn ROS? Okay, those are very fair questions. And let me go through this podcast, go through the answers to those two questions. Let's go to the first question first. It's why would you want to become a robotics developer? Well, I would point basically two reasons why. And the first one is that you may want to have a well-paid job. So as a developer, you can develop programs for many things. And the thing is that the market for most of the sectors is already saturated. For example, I don't know, web programmers, I don't know, let's say data scientists and all this programming about data or machine learning. So plenty of people. But what happens in robotics? In robotics, there are just a few developers, a few programmers there. And the reason why, mainly, one of the reasons is because usually software and hardware people, they are very different and they don't want to get mixed. So the people from hardware usually deals with the hardware and the people from software deals with the software. Then what happens in the hardware of the robots? Then it happens that there are no software developers that want to join, usually. I mean, I'm talking in big numbers, okay, in general. So usually it's the same person that does the hardware who is doing the software itself. So basically when we develop robots, it's the same kind of person that does everything. And that makes that, of course, the programs that we can build there are not so optimized, are not so good as they should be. And so the companies, they are starting to build a lot of robots. You can see the predictions for the robotics market that is growing spectacularly. In the next year, it's going to grow a lot. Actually, it is expected that the global market for robotics will reach the 67 billion by 2025. By 2025, 67 billions. So, wow, that's impressive. Actually, the estimations that they made for 2018, they had to be rebuilt once we reach 2018 because they were underestimated. So now the new estimations, they show that the number of robots, and the market for robotics is going to reach a very, very high level, and especially in the consumer robotics, not only in the industrial or military that have been up to now the typical sectors for building robots, but also in the robotics in the consumer sector. That's the one that is accelerating the most. So having reached that point, then what happened? That a lot of companies, they are appearing there providing robots. And the problem that they have is that they don't have people that is expert enough in programming robots. They need developers. And I can see also this, for example, at the most famous conference in ROS of the world, the official conference of ROS that is called the ROSCon. It's held every year. Then in every year there are a lot of companies that are attending there, and all the years they are posting job offers while they are being there. And actually you can also go to their websites at present, just right now, and then you will see that they have opening positions for people in the field of programming the robots. So what we see is that there is a lot of market there, and it's an early market, so it's a good opportunity for you to get into robotics right now before everybody comes to this and do the same as in data scientists. Everybody is now a data scientist, everybody's a machine learning programmer, and everybody is doing the same thing. So in robotics doesn't happen that. So now is your chance to get into this and become a robotics developer. And also the salaries, what I can tell you on the salaries, you can do a search on Google. I have done several, but they are an average around 100,000 per year, and they reach up to 150, something like that. So that's the range at present. I presume that it's going to increase based on the low numbers of, there are so few developers there. So I presume that is even going to increase even more. So that's more or less one idea that you can get. So why to become a robotics developer? Because you can have a well-paid job with little competitors at present. And the second reason that I would like to share here with you why to become a robotics developer is because you can make an actual impact in society. You can help to change the world by becoming a robotics developer. And how is that so? So why? But because basically, so we all of us, we have been dreaming with all this society where we are surrounded by robots that they help us, they clean our houses, they help the older people to have a better life. They do all those tough works that we don't want to do on the outside, like on the fields, on the mines, or they can help us in difficult situations like in a fire on the woods, or maybe underwater rescue, things like that. But the thing that those are only exist on the films, on the movies, but doesn't exist in reality. And where is the point? Why don't we have those robots yet? What is failing? And I would tell you that what is failing is the software of the robots, the programs. We are not able to build a program, a software that makes a robot intelligent enough to do all those tasks. And maybe you will say, oh no, I don't trust you. Can you provide some proof of this? So what I would say is that you have to see a video. I will put the video on the link of this, on the show notes of this podcast, but you will see it's a video that is very nice. So there is a guy there, the creator of the video, who takes a robot, a PR2 robot, and then he leaves the robot on a room that is plenty of stuff around, and then the job of the robot is to clean everything, all the mess, and organize some things in one place, some things in another. There are hard objects, there are soft objects like clothes, and there is a lot of mess around there. You'll see on the video. And then, but then what happens is that the person who is doing the video is controlling the robot using a remote control, like the PS2, PS3 remote controllers. So he is making the robot do what he wants the robot to do. So the only software that is there is just the remote control software. Okay, so the intelligence of the robot is on the person. Okay, so the person is doing it, then the robot is moving very slow because, I mean, still it's very slow. Robots are very slow, but the robot is able, under the commands of the remote controller, the person that controls, it's able to clean the complete room. Then it takes a long time, it's several, I don't know, it's an hour or something like that, but at the end the room is clean. And what that is showing is that the hardware is already there, is able to do this cleaning task. The problem is that there is no intelligence, there is no program that is able to do what the person is doing. So that is a very beautiful example showing where the limitations is. It's in the software. Then you have a chance to create that software. You become a robotics developer. You have the chance to make this impact and create a program that allows the robot to do those tasks. So wouldn't be that amazing? I mean, for me, that would be great. That would be super cool. The greatest thing. So imagine the next robotics product that go into the homes for cleaning the kitchen or the let's say the room, even if it's only for their clothes. So that would be amazing, and you have contributed to that. So you have the chance if you become a robotics developer, of course. Then what else I would say? So those are my two reasons why to become a robotics developer. Then I hope that I convinced you on this, and let's suppose that I did. So then the second question would be, okay, so I want to become, so why should I learn ROS? Okay, that's a very fair question. Then my answer to that is because of several reasons. So I don't know. So basically I would tell you the basic reason is because ROS is becoming the standard. It's becoming the standard in the robotics world. At first, ROS started into very small niche for some, let's say, some crazy guys or freaks that we were doing robotics experiments. So it was mainly for research or for doing your own experiments with robots. But now ROS has been growing and maturing a lot, and now it's a very mature product that you can actually put into actual robotics products. Okay, ROS has its drawbacks, and that's the matter for another podcast, maybe to discuss about the drawbacks of ROS. But at present, ROS is quite mature to create products, and the proof is that there are several companies out there that they are shipping the robots with ROS in the inside. And this is winning year after year. More people, it's growing, more companies are using it. So ROS is becoming the standard in programming robotics. So actually, I would say that if there is a standard, it's ROS, because the other options that you have have so small parts of the market. Basically, they are proprietary solutions. Every company creates its own solution. So the only one that is being adopted by several of them, it's ROS as a framework for programming robots. Then I would say that it's already the standard. Yeah. So then if you want to bet into the best horse, I would suggest that this is ROS. So if you want to become a robotics developer, then I suggest you to bet into ROS. By applying ROS, then you will have a lot of advantages. For example, there is a lot of packages that are already created, a lot of software that is already being created in the same way as for Linux. So the ROS works in the same way. ROS is open source. So a lot of contributors around the world are creating software that already works. So you can use it in your robots. So, well, in your case, as a developer, you can use those parts of software and you don't have to develop. So you can build on top of that. And also, one of the advantages specifically for robot developers is that ROS provides an API, or let's call a ROS API. It's not the typical API like we know in library, you know, the functions and which are the parameters and what is returned. In ROS, the API is composed of what we call ROS topics, services, action servers, and messages. So that's the API. Okay, so you don't understand, maybe you are new to ROS, you don't know what is that, don't worry, that's not important right now. But basically, let me tell you that there is this ROS API, and this API allows you to separate between the hardware and the software. And that is a very important point for software developers. Okay, because I know that most of you, because I know you, okay, so I have been working all my life with many software developers, and especially in robotics, and most of you don't like to deal with the hardware. And that makes sense. That's why you decided to become a software developer. So you don't want to deal with the hardware of the robot. Then maybe you are worried, hey, if I become a robotics developer, then I will have to deal with those problems with hardware. So the good news is that thanks to this ROS API, your interaction with the hardware can be as little as possible. Very small. Actually, depends on the company that you are going to use your software skills for programming robots. Then it depends, but maybe you will never have to deal with the hardware because you are creating your programs that attack directly to the ROS API. So you don't have to see what is happening on the other side of the API that is on the hardware part. Yeah, so that's very convenient then for you because you are getting this part out of the list of problems about becoming a ROS developer, a robotics developer. And then your next question will be, oh, okay, yeah, but if I have that, then how can I test my programs? How can I see if my programs are working properly? Then that's another of the beauties of ROS. Then in that case, you will use a simulation of the robot. And this simulation provides you with the same API as the real robot. So your program actually doesn't know if it is talking to the real robot hardware or the simulated robot. Then once you have this simulated robot there, then that's it. You are 100% in the realm of software. You are safe. You are in the part that you like the most. And that's it. So you can develop your ROS programs and using the API connect to this simulated robot that is a simulation of the real hardware and then test and see if it works. Actually, you can use this also for doing unit testing and like in the same, it's a similar way like using mocks in programming, but actually you are not mocking anything, but you are actually providing simulated data that is simulated in real time from a real simulation. And yeah, so if you are worried if the differences between the simulation and the real robot, if they exist, they do exist. And yes, now that's one of the small drawbacks that you may have. So at some point in time, maybe you need to test on the real robot. As I mentioned, depends on the size of your company. Sometimes this is not even necessary for you because you are going to provide the software to the robot assist that they do understand your code, but they are more on the part of the hardware. If you are landing in a smaller company, maybe you will have to do some tests yourself on the real robot. So I don't want to hide you this from your decision, okay? So, but as you can see, most of your time is going to be done on the software side. And yeah, so basically that's all that I wanted to tell you today and discuss about today. It's about how to become a robotics developer and why you should learn about ROS. Why, if you want to become a robotics developer, why do you have to learn ROS? So those are the reasons. And then finally, I would like just to let you know that, of course, our company has an academy. It's an online academy that teaches you ROS in the optimal way. It's called the Robot Ignite Academy. I will put a link here, okay, on the show notes. And then in this academy, we have created a method for teaching ROS. And this method, it's called the 30-70 method, where you are going to dedicate only 30% of the time to the theory and 70% of the time to practicing with simulated robots. So you don't have to install anything in your computer. You are going to start by opening our platform on a web browser, any type of computer. Don't need to install anything on your computer, and then you just open and start practicing with simulated robot. In the same way as I mentioned before that you are going to do at the companies if you land in one robotics company working. So we have this method there. I would like you to try. Actually, we have seen many people coming to the academy that they don't have any idea about programming, so they are not even software developers yet. So we have included a couple of free, 100% free tutorials for introducing these people. In case that is your case, you can go straight away right now to the academy. It's called so we have a path for beginners, and we start in this path by teaching you the basics of Linux, because ROS works with Linux mainly. And then we have also another course based on Python. So you are going to learn the basics of Linux and then the basics of Python afterwards, and then use this knowledge to learn ROS and how to control robots by using ROS. So you can give a try to those two courses that they are for free in case that you need it. In case you don't, you can jump straight into ROS. And that is all for today. Thank you very much for your time, and see you the next week with another interview with the experts. And until then, keep pushing your ROS learning.